Before we dive deep into scope and making sure that all the ins and outs of scope are well understood, I need to define lexical environment. This is a term that is used as we talk about scope and other concepts later on. So I want to define it before we get into scope. Let's start by looking at a definition that comes from the ECMAScript specification. A lexical environment is a specification type used to define the association of identifiers to specific variables and functions based upon the lexical nesting structure of ECMAScript code. Okay, there you go. Simple enough, right? I'm not sure why sometimes definitions make the term even more difficult. But I've found that the definition for this term can become unnecessarily complex, mainly because the person creating the definition is trying to describe everything the JavaScript engine does to maintain lexical reference of variables and functions in your code. I would rather use a simpler definition that has more to do with how we will use the term. So, first, the term lexical has to do with words. So lexical environment in programming has to do with where something physically sits in the code you write. Where you put a variable or function is important. I don't think that concept is new. Well, when we are referring to where a variable sits lexically, what is its lexical environment, we're referring to where in the code it is placed. Where is it in relation to the other words that make up the code you have written? So, in this simple bit of code, we can talk about it this way, lexically. The variable num2 is defined, set up inside of function test. Function test sits on the global environment. So does variable num1. So we're talking about lexically where they are placed. And that's important in JavaScript. So hopefully that simple definition is much simpler. And as we use the term later on, you'll understand what we're talking about. Where is this placed within your code? It is important in JavaScript. All right, let's move on to scope.